Well, family, it's that time of week again. It's Saturday. Let's go ahead and get started on a week of meals. This is a video that is dedicated on cooking dinners. Our dinners are always built-in leftovers for the next day. Sometimes we cook breakfast together, sometimes we don't. Most of the time when we do cook breakfast, it's in the evening. Hello family, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Vicki and you're with Grammy in the Kitchen. So this is a video that's dedicated on the meals I cook during the week and I share with you guys. I do hope you enjoy watching these videos on week of meals as much as I enjoy making them. So the first meal we're going to make is biscuits and gravy. It is one of the husband's favorite things. He likes everything I cook, but this is one of his favorite. If he requests something for me to cook, chances are it's going to be biscuits and gravy. But we're going to have this for dinner. So the first thing we need to do is to sour our milk. I don't usually keep buttermilk in my house, so we're actually going to take regular milk and add vinegar, and that will sour the milk. So we need 3/4 cup of milk and 1 tablespoon of white distilled vinegar. Stir that in. We're going to let that sit while we work on the other components. So first thing we're going to do is grate a stick of butter. I do have the oven on, preheating to 350 degrees. Grating the butter gets mixed into the flour a lot easier than to cut it up into cubes and sit there and break it into the flour. So I'm finding out grating is a lot easier and I'm enjoying it. Just watch out for your knuckles. Let me wash my hands. We need 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Mix that in really well. Get all that butter coated with the flour. Loosen them up a bit. Perfect. And now we're going to add our sour milk mixture. Mix that in a little bit until we can get in there with our hands. Okay, time to get in there. Make sure we get all the dry pieces incorporate before we put it onto the countertop. Alright, that looks good. Put some flour down on our surface. Alright, let's go ahead and dump the biscuits onto our countertop. Right, now we're just going to knead it just a bit, not too much. Just until it becomes cohesive. Perfect. I find just using my hands to flatten it out works just fine. And if you like flaky, layery biscuits, that's what we're going to end up with. And what we want to do is we want to fold it into thirds. This is going to build our layers. Fold it into thirds again. So now we have 3 layers, and then the opposite way we're going to fold it into thirds, and then again. So that's going to give us 9 layers if my math is correct. And now we're going to flatten it out. I do not use a biscuit cutter because that makes round biscuits, and then I got to take all that leftover dough and do the process again. I actually cut mine into squares. Alright, that is our seam side. We're going to keep that down. And measuring, it's about 7 by 7. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and get our cast iron skillet ready to go into the oven. So I have some butter, maybe a half a teaspoon, and I do want to coat this pan, side walls, bottom. Make sure we get into the corners. Just coat it with some butter very well. And I absolutely love cooking biscuits in a cast iron skillet. They turn out so soft and flavorful. There we go. Now I'm going to cut it in half and then quarters. And then each quarter I am going to cut into 3s. And this is going to go into a 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes. And clean our station, and we're going to go ahead and get started on that sausage gravy. This is my opinion and my opinion only. Homemade biscuits taste better than canned biscuits, hands down. And also I think they taste better than those frozen biscuits that you take from the freezer, put it on a pan, stick it in the oven. And it's not hard. Grating the butter, the flour, the salt, the baking soda, the baking powder, sour the milk with a little bit of vinegar, put it together and cut them in squares. Makes it so much easier. That way you don't have to take the last bits, form into another dough, do the whole fold and roll out and cut them again. Cut them in squares. They go by faster and you don't have any of that bits that you gotta play with. Get into the kitchen, make homemade biscuits. We buy all of our baking ingredients from Azure Standard. I get 50-pound bags of flour when I order flour. I don't order flour every month. And then that goes into my 5-gallon bucket. I have 2 containers in this cabinet with flour. They each hold a little bit more than 5 pounds. And then whatever doesn't fit into the 5-gallon bucket, I put in Mylar bags, seal those, and put them in a container for backstock. And on those months that I need to order flour and I'm unable to get it, I know I have my backstock. Having a pantry with staples: flour, sugar, rice, oats, beans. At the ready is so convenient. And when you get from Azure, you can buy bulk at a cheaper rate per unit than you can go into the store and buy a 5-pound bag of flour or a 10-pound bag of flour, and then constantly go back to the store and get more and more and more and more. Azure Standard sells my favorite flour. I'll put a picture right here. 50 pounds, less than $60. And I have flour at the ready. If you make biscuits, pie crust, a lot of roux where you have your fat and your flour together and add either a broth or milk to make macaroni and cheese or gravy or something of that nature, having flour in the house at the ready, it's going to determine whether you're able to make a delicious homemade meal to feed your family or ordering out and getting something that is not healthy, no ingredients that you have control over. If you're interested in Azure Standard, down below it's going to be a link. It does benefit me if you use my link to order from Azure. Your first order needs to be $100 or more within, I think it's 60 or 90 days from signing up to placing your first order. I am blessed with $25. Not from you, it comes from Azure. Once you become a member and you refer someone to Azure Standard and they use your link, then you are benefited with $25 credit also when they order $100 or more within 60 or 90 days from signing up. So if you're interested in Azure and having a pantry with staple things in your freezer, in your refrigerator, in your pantry, please use my link below. It will benefit my family, it will benefit this channel, but that is enough for Azure. Let's get to the stove and cook the sausage for the gravy. I have the stainless steel skillet on the stove top. This is just a pound of store-bought sausage. Yes, one of my goals is to buy local, farmed, butchered pork and beef. We are not there yet. We are still relying on the grocery store for those items. But my goal is to be able to do that. Let me go ahead and get this sausage browned up and we'll get started on that gravy mix. So I have some bacon grease. I cooked bacon, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. I am going to put about 3 tablespoons of bacon grease in here. You can use butter. You just want equal fat to flour to make a roux. Got the bacon grease, might as well use it. I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons of flour. Just cook that a little bit to get rid of that raw flour flavor. This needs about a minute or 2. That is good. We're going to pour in 2 cups of milk. Now we like our gravy more sausage versus gravy. scraping the bottom. Make sure we get all of that burnt bits incorporated into that gravy. Biscuits are still in the oven. All right, let's go ahead and salt and pepper. Let's put about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We don't need a lot of salt because we're using pork sausage. And about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And as that milk heats up, it'll start thickening with that roux. That roux will help it thicken up. And if it's too thick, we'll add some more milk. We're going to let that sit for a bit. Let's check on those biscuits. Not quite ready. Let's go ahead and taste it for salt and pepper. Oh, that's so good. See how it's thickening up? We do not need to add any salt and pepper to it. It is perfect. I'm going to turn it down to a medium-low. That's right in the middle of medium and low. Make sure we're scraping that bottom. Biscuits are done. And the gravy is done. But I want to show you. Do you see those layers? That's when we were doing those folds. You can actually see them. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you cannot get that from a store-bought biscuit. And the flavor, so light and fluffy, just beautiful. Now we do have a stick of butter with those biscuits. I like extra butter. Let's grab a biscuit. Ooh, hot. Let's grab another biscuit. Put a little butter, let that melt, and then we'll put some gravy on it. Serve this with some eggs. Perfect breakfast or dinner. We already know this is going to be good. We make biscuits and sausage gravy all the time in this kitchen. So we already know it's going to be delicious. It's homemade biscuits, homemade gravy. You don't need to buy the little packet, what's it called? Country gravy or pepper gravy. It has all the things in it. All you have to do is add milk. Ours is the same way. It has all the ingredients in it. We just had to add milk. We started off with the fat. Today we did bacon grease, but you can use butter. And then we added flour, and that made a roux. And then all we had to do was add milk. So delicious, family. Well, that's what we're going to have for dinner tonight. If the husband decides he wants to have some eggs, we have eggs. We get a dozen of eggs from a local farm where we get our milk share from. And I've had 2 people this week give me a dozen of eggs. So we need to eat eggs. So, you know, I've been wanting to make, I'll let it be a surprise. Well, we're going to make something new to us in this kitchen. First off, I want to say I am sorry about the audio yesterday. If you are still here, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know what happened with that audio, but we're moving on anyway. So today we're going to make spaghetti with meat sauce. We have not had time to turn those large cans of diced tomatoes into sauce to get them in jars to put them in our pantry. So we're making a fresh batch just for today, a little bit extra for leftovers. I need to get some pizzas in the oven. Hopefully I can get to that this weekend. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started on this pasta sauce. So I have the Dutch oven. I'll put about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Oop, I need to fill my olive oil. I have one of our 1 cup measures of diced onions we keep in the freezer. And we're just going to saute that just a bit, and then we're going to add 2 garlic cloves plus tomato products. Okay, the onions have been cooking for about 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and add the garlic. I have 2 of our garlic cloves going in, and we're just going to cook that until we can smell the aroma of the garlic. Shouldn't take more than about 2 to 3 minutes. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. And we're not going to waste what's in here. I'll show you what we're going to do with this. Some of you probably already know. All right, we just want to cook that paste just for 1 minute. And then we're going to add all the other products. I have 2 cans of diced tomatoes. And I meant to get 2 cans of tomato sauce, but I accidentally got 1 can of tomato sauce and another can of diced tomatoes. But since I already have them open, we're going to go ahead and put that in. I'm not going to waste that. I have about 1/2 cup of water in this can. I'm just going to give it a swish. And I'm just rotating through all the cans to make sure we get all that goodness out. Perfect. No waste. We're going to start off with 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We can always add more if we need it. We cannot take it out unless we add more ingredients to break down the spice tomato product ratio. So we're going to go little, and then we'll add if we need to add more. And to break the acidity of the tomatoes down, I am going to add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. And again, if it's still too acidic, we'll add more. We're just going to let this simmer for about 30 minutes. Then we're going to take the stick blender, blend it up really smooth, taste it, and see if we need to add anything to it. All right, we're going to bring this to a simmer and simmer for 30 minutes. So since we didn't use this whole can of tomato paste, I like to keep it in the freezer for future use. So we're going to put about a tablespoon measure in some parchment paper. And I just cut these into little squares, perfect size for for some tomato paste, and we can keep this in the freezer. Into a Ziploc bag. And then this will go into the freezer, and the next time we need tomato paste, and we only need a tablespoon or 2, we have it ready in the freezer. Occasionally we want to come over here and give it a stir and make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. Once it has burnt in it, you will not get that flavor out, and your pasta sauce is going to taste burnt. So we want to make sure we're stirring it and then we're not having any burnt bits on the bottom. So the other components we have is a pound of ground beef, and I have linguine. I'm going to weigh out 12 ounces of this linguine. I know it's a pound, 16 ounces. What's the difference? I don't need that much pasta. Now we're just waiting for the sauce to come up to a simmer and simmer for 30 minutes. We'll puree it, taste it, see if we need to add anything else to it. Once we know it is perfect and ready to go, we'll get our ground beef cooked and we'll go ahead and cook the pasta. All right, it's been 30 minutes. I'm gonna turn the burner off. I have that stick blender. I'm gonna give it a good whirl. Make sure we're breaking up those onion bits and those diced tomatoes. That looks good. Let's taste it. It needs a lot. So we're going to add another ½ teaspoon of salt. Another ¼ teaspoon of pepper. We're just going to double everything we put in here. 2 more teaspoons of Italian seasoning. 2 more tablespoons of brown sugar. Look how smooth that is, family. Oh, that's beautiful. It's still just a little bit too acidic, so I am going to add 2 more tablespoons of brown sugar. But the salt and pepper and the Italian season is spot on. Perfect. Oh yes, that is so good. Now we're going to go ahead and start working on the beef. I'm going to set this aside, put the lid on it so it can stay warm. In this pot right here, I have some water coming to a boil to cook the pasta. And in this skillet, I'm going to cook the ground beef. It's still a little frozen. I took it out of the freezer this morning, but that's okay. We can work with that. Alright, so let me get this all browned, get the pasta cooked. We're going ahead and build our pasta dish. Whatever sauce we have left over, we're going to put in jars, stick it in the refrigerator, so we can use that to make pizza sauce. So the beef has cooked. I do want to add some pasta sauce. So we're just going to ladle a little bit in here. That looks about good for right now. Of course, once we put everything together, if we need to add more, it's not a problem. So I'm going to let this simmer. I have the Dutch oven lid on this stainless steel pan, but I do have a vent spot right there. I'm going to turn it down to a low, medium low, and just let that simmer for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and get this pasta dish built. So this is 12 ounces of cooked drained and rinsed linguine noodles, our meat sauce, we're going to give that a stir, see if we need to add any more sauce to it. You know what, family? I think we did good. Sorry. I think we did good, family. So we're just going to leave this here. We're going to eat dinner in a few minutes. As for the rest of the sauce, I need to get it into a jar so we can get this in the refrigerator once it cools down. So I have a quart-sized mason jar. It's probably going to take more than that, but that's okay. I think the last time we made sauce like this, we were able to get enough for a pasta dish, plus a quart and a pint in the refrigerator. Well, I think we put that in the freezer. But this I'm just going to put in the refrigerator. So we need to make pizza, family. All right, so there's a quart. Almost a pint. So once these cool off, I'll put a lid on them and stick them in the refrigerator. I have a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese from the last time we grated cheese. I'm going to go ahead and dump that in there. Why not? Serve this with some garlic bread, a salad. Family, it would be delicious. Now, if you cook like I do, or if you want to be able to cook like I do, you don't need multiple things in your house. For instance, you don't need canned tomato products to use that on for dinners that you need tomato products in, plus pasta sauce, plus pizza sauce, and anything else of that nature. Stock up or either home can some tomatoes, diced tomatoes, whole tomatoes, tomato sauce, tomato paste. And as long as you have the staples of canned tomato products, you can make anything you want. Spaghetti sauce, chilies, but you don't need to buy separate sauces, pizza sauce, pasta sauce, or any of that stuff. You have the base to be able to make those ingredients. I hope that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, leave a question. I'll do my best to answer. But take what you cook in your kitchen. If you make spaghetti on a regular basis, you don't need to buy spaghetti sauce. Buy the canned tomato products or can them yourself and then make it homemade. If you make pizzas often in your home, you don't have to buy pizza sauce. You can have canned products and make your own. Tweak this flavoring however you want it. More basil, more oregano, no garlic, no onion. Whatever you like in your sauce, make it to fit you. Let's taste and see if it's good. Family, that's delicious. Let me call the husband in here. We'll make a quick salad with some just lettuce and tomatoes and probably just oil and vinegar. I'm not going to do anything special. We're going to sit down and have dinner. The rest of this will go in the refrigerator because now we have lunch tomorrow. And I'll see you the next time we get in the kitchen and make a delicious meal together. So tonight's dinner is going to be a chuck roast that I'm going to put in the Instant Pot, but I do want to sear it on the stove really quick. So come on, let's get this going on the stove. So in the cast iron skillet, I'm gonna drizzle a little bit of olive oil. And this is about almost a 2-pound chuck roast. I do want to drizzle some pepper. And some salt. Then once the pan gets hot, we'll put this down, season side down, and season the other side. If you saw the video last week and we cooked the chicken in the Instant Pot, this is the broth from that. I measured out 2 cups. And I have some better than bouillon beef flavor. We'll put a good tablespoon. Just get that mixed in, and that's going to be the liquid for our Instant Pot. Now we're going to flip it. Look at that beautiful color. And then we're going to cook it on this side for about 10 minutes. So we're going to put the chicken stock with the better than bouillon. We're going to add our roast. One of our frozen chopped up onions. So right there, absolutely gorgeous. Put the lid on. We're going to hit meat stew. Make sure it's on high, and we're going to do it for 110 minutes. And once the time is done, we are not going to manual release it. We're going to let it natural release. That way the beef stays tender and juicy. Plus I want to do some potatoes, but I think we're just going to do baked potatoes in the oven. That's more than an hour. So we're going to wait about 30 minutes before we put our potatoes in the oven. That way the potatoes have an hour to cook. I told you the wrong time on that beef. Not 110 minutes. Wrong. It's 1 hour and 10 minutes. So we did it for an hour and 10 minutes, let it natural release. And in that time, we went ahead and put some potatoes in the oven. All I did was wash them, put a little bit of olive oil on them, and some salt. They've been in the oven for about an hour and 5 minutes. I'm gonna give it 10 more minutes. But in the meantime, I wanna go ahead and get that roast out of the Instant Pot, and we're gonna make a cornstarch slurry to make a gravy. Let's go ahead and take this roast out. Oh, it's gonna fall apart, family. Oh, it's beautiful. Look at that, just falling right apart. Gorgeous. That is exactly what we want. Now, you know, I have told y'all this before, over and over again. The husband does not care for onions. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a quick blend with the stick blender, and then we're gonna add the cornstarch slurry. That is all we're going to do. I'm going to hit the saute button so it can start warming up, so when we put the slurry in there, it'll make a nice gravy. That's a tablespoon of cornstarch with a tablespoon and a half of water. We're going to let this come up to a simmer, and then we'll add that in there. Okay, it's starting to have a little ripple of bubbles because it's boiling. We're going to whisk in that slurry. We're going to give that 5 minutes, and then dinner will be ready. So everything is ready. Let's go ahead and make the husband's plate. We're going to put some beef on here. Oh, family, it is falling apart. Let's give him a potato. Serve this with a salad or green beans or whatever vegetable you like. I asked the husband if he wanted anything to go with it, and he said he didn't, so we're not going to bother with that. Can't pick up butter. All right, let's put some butter on the potato. Let's put some of this delicious sauce right on top of that beef. And let's make a plate for us. Get some of this beef, a potato, let's put a little bit of butter. I like sour cream on my potatoes, so we're going to put a little bit of sour cream. And just so you know, this Nancy's probiotic sour cream we got from Azure last month, oh, it's the best sour cream I've ever had in my life. A little bit of salt and pepper, and a little bit of this sauce right on that beef. The potatoes were cooked in the oven for 1 hour and 10 minutes on 350 degrees. All we did was wash them, put a little bit of oil and salt on them, and stuck them in the oven. And this beef is just falling completely apart. We bought this when we found it at Food Lion a couple months ago when it was $3.99 a pound, and we ended up buying 2 of them. First one we did in the crock pot. The second one we put in the Instant Pot. And between the two, I believe I like the Instant Pot better. It just fell completely apart. And it was 1 hour and 10 minutes, plus about 30 minutes for it to natural release. But family, it's good. That's what we're having for dinner. If you don't mind, let us know what you had for dinner tonight. Can't wait to see you the next time we get in the kitchen. Bye, family.